This Thrive Loud episode is brought to you by Hinge Consulting. Success on Amazon hinges on well-executed strategies. Contact Hinge Consulting to learn about total Amazon channel management and to see if your business has what it takes to grow over 300% over the next 12 months. That's Hinge Consulting at hingeconsulting.co.
Today on Thrive Loud.
So we're not only focused on helping people just sort of, get their business working but we really want to help make sure that at the end of the day, you're feeling less stress. And that is really important to us, that we're making a difference for people's lives, not just their top line.
Now I'm getting really excited. Okay, this is the part where I'm going to get loud.
Holy crap, here we go.
I like telling stories.
I learn best through experiences.
Everything I do is because of everything I did.
Talk about having maximum impact while having a ton of fun.
When you can net through that, what you do leave behind for your listener will have more impact.
Wow, bring it on.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, I am the most excited person in the world because I have the good fortune of having all of you get a chance to connect with the CEO of Cloze, that's C-L-O-Z-E, Mr. Dan Foody. Dan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Lou.
So for those that follow the show and are frequent listeners, the name Cloze might sound familiar to you. If we go all the way back to an episode when we had Dan Waldschmidt on the show, I ask a lot of the guests a certain tool that they can't live without in today's day and age. And no one has been more passionate about it than him. And he shouted about using Cloze. So much so that I became an active and avid user. And after recognizing the power of what this tool is, I basically said, I got to get this guy, Dan Foody, on the show so he can tell more about his story, because it is a great product. And I think your journey and how you got to it is what the Thrive Loud listeners want to hear about. And I will then interject very excitedly, probably geeking out a little bit as we go through it. So Dan, tell us, give us your little bit of your history and how this all came to be.
So, I've done a bit of everything in roles in the past, from technical side to running business units, running product management for very large organizations. And, in some of my last roles in the business unit side and product management, one of the things I faced was sort of a combination of just too much stuff going on, lots of information coming in, and the inability to keep track of all the relationships, all the people I need to get involved with. In a lot of roles in business, you're external facing, you deal with a lot of people, and managing all those people tends to be a challenge. The funny thing about it is the first market category people gravitate towards when they think, I need help managing my relationships is CRM. And the funny thing about CRM tools is the single thing they're really, really bad at, almost universally, is managing relationships, even though it's in the name of the category. Therefore, managing pipelines and forecast and roll up and managerial reporting, but they really do a really poor job of helping you manage your relationships. And, things like knowing who to get in touch with, remembering to follow up on things, knowing, what's the next action items you need to get done to bring a relationship forward. And, as an individual, when I was looking at my own problems that I faced, I looked at a lot of tools that were out there, and most of them were built for managerial reporting, and they really didn't help solve the problem I had of just keeping track of my relationships, knowing who to follow up with, and knowing what my next action items were, and so on. And so that was kind of the genesis of Cloze. My co-founder, Alex, he had the same problem in his role. He was in a marketing role, but we kind of faced this same problem, realizing that none of the tools out there were actually for managing relationships themselves, even if they had that in their name. And so that was, a lot of the focus for us was really thinking about that problem of how do you manage relationships. And we started looking at it from, a couple of perspectives. One side is there are roles in businesses that, their whole job is managing relationships, or sales, business development. But a large set of people in an organization, in a business, freelancers, they do a lot more than just a pure one sales role or business development role. You have to deal with all parts of the business and all kinds of relationships and all sorts of different stages of a life cycle for your customers and clients. And so we really started thinking about the problem from that side of the view of how do you help people bring a relationship forward over time? Not how do you sell them something, or how do you close a deal, but how do you make a relationship stronger and stronger over time? And that was sort of the focus point of the way we started looking at Cloze.
Yeah, so interjecting here for a second, just by the way, my whole philosophy is that it's never just about the sale. It is about the connection. And you're 100% right. There's so many ways, and people aren't really good at keeping up connections. So a lot of the tools that are out there are geared towards a sale, a product, staying in touch with somebody, but it's not necessarily about maintaining the relationship. Okay, so now continue. I'm interjecting because I'm so on board with this philosophy.
Yeah, it's even if you look at just a pure sales role, the vast majority of deals are closed with existing clients, which means building a strong relationship is actually more important in many ways than getting your first sale. But the other side we looked at is when we were building out Clozes, we don't have enough time in the day, and most of the relationship management tools out there are incredibly manual. So basically, everything you want to remember, you need to write down. It's as if someone took a blank notebook and said, we're going to put this on a computer and you do the rest of the work. And that's not really where technology should be helping people. It should be offloading you from all the things that you shouldn't have to write down. And so the other half of our philosophy with Cloze was let's automate as much as possible for you. So so one of the things that we do there is rather than making you remember what people you need to get back to, Cloze actually figures that out for you. We look at your entire history of all your communications. We hook to your email, your phone records, your notes that you've taken, Twitter feeds and so on, to look at all the people that you're talking with. How often have you talked with them? And we analyze that whole history to start giving you suggestions about who you should be talking with. And so we're trying to get rid of a lot of that manual nature of things. If you think about the action items you have for a day, there's like 1% of people who are really good at writing things down. The vast majority of us, and I count myself absolutely in this bucket, 90% of the things you need to get done in a day, you never remember to actually write down. It was never on your calendar. It's never in your formal to-dos. And so part of what we've started on that journey of is figuring out how do we bring to the surface that 90% that you forgot to write down. The 10%'s easy, frankly. It's the 90% that you forgot that's the gold mine of value for you.
Right. So just getting a little bit of background before you had built this, from a technical aspect of this, were you in a world of technology and the ability to build all this? Or was this something that you had hands-on experience with, or you were connected to people that could build this type of platform?
So I actually have a technical background. I mean, I started as an architect, CTO, and so on Cloze, I actually do some of the coding as well.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a bit of everything, both technical and business, and I built the technical team based on people I'd worked with in the past that are some of the best people I've ever worked with.
So for the Thrive Lab listeners, I wanted to give real life experience here. So and how a product like this is true. Everything that Dan has said is spot on accurate as it relates to other CRM tools. I have no problem throwing them under the bus. Places like from Salesforce to the old days of Act and all that stuff, it required a lot of hands-on usage. I'm all over the place as an entrepreneur with my team. I use a lot of emails. There's a ton of social media that I utilize from all the forms, from Twitter to Facebook, and everything that's out there. And I'm constantly meeting and connecting with lots of people in lots of different industries. So when I signed up to use, when I look for CRM programs, I need something that can do a lot of work for me. As I wake up every morning, I get an email from Cloze, and Cloze tells me all the things that are on my agenda from my calendars, from any social media activities, from people that I need to follow up with. And if it doesn't only help me maintain my connections, if anything, what it also does is it helps me value the relationships that I have, and this sense of importancy on how I'm frequently following up with them or not. So I want to dive into this question, Dan. There's obviously some crazy algorithm going on too, on how you're trying to figure out what's the frequent way of, hey, it's time to go follow up with John. You're overdue to connect. What are some of the things that you utilize from all those touch points to figure that out?
Well, the first piece that's important about this is you need all the touch points. So if you're only looking at email, you're missing the fact that someone might have given you a phone call. So you want to make sure that you bring in data about every form of communication you do. And so that's one of the things we do, is we bring in the phone calls as well as email and Twitter and so on, because we don't want to be saying, hey, you haven't emailed this person recently if you were on the phone with them for an hour just yesterday. And so in terms of the algorithm, so there's a lot of AI behind it, but at a high level, we're looking at a lot of different factors around where your relationship has been over time. So we look at things like, how frequently do you talk to someone? When you talk to them, do you typically CC 50 people, or is it one-to-one conversations, more personal conversations? What communication channels do you talk on? A stronger relationship is built on phone and in-person meetings than is on email. We look at how long does it take you to respond to someone? So that's sort of an indication of your feelings about them in many ways. So if you take a week to respond to someone every time versus you get back to them in 5 seconds, that's a good indication of things. We even look at what we call balance, which is, let's say, for example, I sent you, every time we communicate, I send you 5-page diatribes and you respond, yep or nope. That's an unbalanced relationship. And so we look at, do your communication patterns start to align with one another? Because people who are working the closest tend to sort of gravitate towards behaving like each other.
Right.
But, the other interesting side to it is you look over time at a relationship. So if let's say, for example, you worked with someone for 5 years, 5 hours a day, every day, even if you don't talk with them for a year, they're still going to remember who you are when you reach out a year later. Mm-hmm. But if you have a 5-minute conversation with someone for 2 days in a row and you don't speak for a year, they'll have no idea who you are. So relationship strength actually depends a lot on the historical context of what have you done with someone in the past too. And so you get more leeway if you've worked with them a lot more. And so we take into account that entire past history of every interaction you've had over time.
which, by the way, is one of the things that I'm fascinated by for those that are familiar with Cloze or those who aren't. The relationship strength piece that he's referring to literally lists out all those different touch points and dormancy, frequency, responsiveness, freshness, balance, the time, and it gives different strengths, and it gives it automatically based on what your behavior has been. And then there's an option where you basically say how you think they rate, right? So then you have the option to actually value, well, actually, this person's actually really more important than what my reactions say they are. And then you balance those things together, which is a pretty cool way to balance both what's actually happening and what your perception of them is.
So I'll tell you a funny story about that. When we originally started, we didn't have that slider to let users control how strong they thought the relationship was. Mm-hmm. And we got a lot of feedback from users I kind of describe it as the significant other problem, which is people would say, my girlfriend needs to be at the top of the list, or my boyfriend needs to be at the top of the list. It doesn't matter. I need them at the top of the list. And so even if people are using it for work, they wanted to make sure that their most important relationships always showed at the top of their list. And so that was actually a funny story behind why we first saw the need for adjusting that. But under the covers, it gives us lots of signals about and improving our algorithm and where we got it wrong and so on.
Adding to my user component of this, yes, by the way, my phone is hooked up, all my emails, all the touch points that you enable me to. And what's really great is the ability to reach out, whether from an email, you can send a text, you can obviously even log a phone call or whatever it might be in a very easy interface to use. So it's actually capturing your actions and it's pushing you to do things. As I'm looking right now, I'll sometimes get these messages that say, hey, overdue to connect with this person. And it will tell me the last email from you was 2 months ago. And from somebody that has a lot of people to connect with as myself, or anyone who has relationships in account management and business development, because those two things roll together, this is one of the most effective ways I've ever seen taking how you're behaving across all of these medians, pulling it together, and you not having to worry about the manual entry. That's the biggest thing that you've accomplished with this. So thank you. That's my thank you for you because I remembered what a pain in the neck it is for anyone who's had to deal with a lot of CRM systems, that manual transfer, uploading information. This is watching how you behave. And by the way, not just on a desktop, you also have it all set up on a mobile app as well.
Yeah, I mean, our goal there is to make it available wherever you work. And, a lot of our users are on the road or out of their office, away from their desk all the time. And so we actually start from the mobile side, and our mobile experience is our premier experience for the app. But you can use it on desktop. You can use it together with other apps. We're really trying to make that information available wherever you are.
So you have obviously a subscription model, and you want to talk about the growth of the business as the CEO. So the technology, you and I can go on. We can have a whole show just about like walking through this. And I almost feel for podcast listeners, it's challenging because we're just going to give them all the links and where they could check it out. Talk about how the business is running and the subscription model and how it's working and how you are growing Cloze as a business.
So, business is going great. It's growing really fast right now. It's interesting. When we started, it was a challenge figuring out just how to reach individuals, because we're going after the problems that an individual faces in managing their relationships, not what a corporate IT department cares about. We wanted to reach the individuals directly. And, funny enough, when we started building it, there wasn't even a subscription model for apps in the app stores at the time.
Right.
And so, figuring out the go-to-market was a real interesting challenge here. But, what we do with the business is also unique in the sense of how do we find our customers. Most of people in the CRM market are using either inside sales, so people on telephones making calling lists, or they're using out field sales where they actually go and visit customers. From a cost of sale perspective, that's ridiculously expensive.
Right.
Each sale costs thousands of dollars. So we've taken a model that is really no-touch model. So we don't have a single salesperson on staff whatsoever. All of our demand is built through word of mouth, through Facebook, through app stores, and that's how we find our users. It helps in the fact that with Cloze, once you get started and you connect your accounts, it's already helping you. In day one, it's already giving you value. In a CRM world, you start using the CRM, and the first thing you do is you're faced with an empty box, nothing there. And so your first action with a CRM is, I need to do work now. And so one of the challenges in the old world with CRMs is, and why you need all those salespeople around it is, you need to get a user over their hurdle of, wait, the first thing I need to do is work for you so you can try and help me. With Cloze, our goal is to make it so that we're doing all the work for you. And that's what enables us to do this really low-cost sales model. And it's very unique in bringing a CRM-type product to market with no salespeople.
That's impressive. How large is, from when you started out with you and Alex building the business, what has Cloze grown to today?
So as a team, we're still a very small team because you look at most organizations and the vast majority of their people are in the sales and marketing side, right? So for us, since we don't have that as a team, we're actually really small. We're under 20. But a large chunk is customer service, for example. But because we have this unique sales model, we don't need a huge team to grow the business to huge sizes.
I love it because you've spun the CRM business on its head, and you've spun the way you need to market the business on its head as well, which is a really cool, disruptive way of doing things. And it's smart. And what I will tell you is that it is the easiest sale to make, and from a word of mouth, even the way that I obviously became a customer, but more notably, people like myself or other types of entrepreneurs, and a lot of my clients who have a business development process and are overwhelmed by it, are trying to figure out, hey, how can I get my whole company to actually use this? Because this is the way that I need to be managing everything. And that's, which is one of my questions, I guess, is you've come from an individual way of helping to manage people. What's the plan as you figure out how the product grows and evolves? What's some of the next steps for Cloze as it continues to evolve?
So as you said, we started off with just really a tool focused on individuals. There was no team capabilities in it originally, but we started to see more and more of teams coming together. And so we launched what we call our Cloze business, which is lets teams work together so that you can have a project or a deal that multiple people are working on and share all of your communications in one place around that. Again, it's not like that old world where you need to manually log data. All the different people on your team, they're working on the same project. You get one view of everything going on around that project with no data entry, nothing. And so you get a clear, unified view of everything happening around a project, a deal, and so that's kind of one side of the business piece. And so business, the team business has grown to, it's about 25% of our customer base now, of our subscriber base. So, we're continuing to grow larger and larger teams. We have many large organizations now with hundreds and thousands of users on Cloze. But we still find our customers going after an individual and let them bring it to the rest of their team.
Nope. That's exactly how that's how it's working. So it's a great way to upsell it in that sense. A couple more standard questions from Thrive Loud, which I think we'd love to hear, Dan. First of all, when you are down or business is choppy or you're overwhelmed, who helps you get back on the thriving track when you're not?
Uh, well, I tend to be a bit self-motivated on that, so I tend to hunker down and just focus and do it myself. But I couldn't do it without having my wife to backstop me too. So she helps a lot to keep me focused and make sure I'm doing the right stuff.
It's very,
but
very
obviously
cool.
my co-founder and I, we're both that sort of mode of, we hunker down, we solve problems, we fix it, we get it moving again.
No, I like it. So the real question, which I wanted to ask from the beginning of the show is Dan Foody a foodie?
Well, so it's a Y at the end of the name, not an IE, but
correct.
But yes, I cook. For New Year's, I cooked a 9-course meal. So I cook myself, mostly sort of French-inspired food because I grew up in Montreal. But yeah, I'm a foodie. So I've actually had restaurant reservations canceled on me because they thought my name was fake. So,
oh my goodness, that's awesome.
But I am the original card-carrying foodie. So it says it on my credit cards.
That's great stuff. What's your big vision for where you want to take Cloze in your mind as a business leader? Where do you want the company to head towards?
So, what we see is there's a huge hole in the market around small businesses, and there's a hole in relationship management around the entire market, really. But the side of small businesses and freelancers and independents, there's really nothing out there that addresses that market and goes after it really well. So we think it's kind of open field running to really build a great relationship management tool in that segment. And, people who are really good at the freelance business, they start building a business around them and they grow businesses from there. And so we've seen that our customers have built, started out as working on their own and they've built businesses. And so that's really great to see. So we really like seeing people who we help them enough that they can build a whole business around what they're doing as an individual. But the other thing that's really important to us is that we're making an emotional, we're helping people with an emotional problem. So having too much to do is something that is frustrating for people. It's stressful. And we do measure ourselves by how much are we helping reduce stress and frustration in life. So one of our measures is how many uses of the word love we have in App Store reviews, for example. And in fact, that's like the number 3 word behind close and great, I think. So we're not only focused on helping people just sort of, get their business working but we really want to help make sure that at the end of the day, you're feeling less stress. And that is really important to us, that we're making a difference for people's lives, not just their top line.
Awesome stuff here. So before we hit the signature question here, Dan, give us all the plugs on where everybody can learn more about Cloze and yourself and how they can get familiar with the product.
So with Cloze, you can find it on the App Store. Just look up CLOZE, either the App Store or the Play Store. You can go to cloze.com and use the app from there. You can start on any one of the platforms, and you have one account that works across everything. So you can start on your phone and use it from the web too. It's really easy to get started as long as you actually remember your passwords for accounts. So when you start with Cloze, we're going to connect to your email, your phone accounts, your Dropbox, Evernote, whatever accounts you have. And then we do all the work and come back and say, here's what we think, here's your relationships, here's what you need to follow up on. So it's really easy to get started. You just need to, connect your accounts and then let Cloze do the work for you.
Great. Cloze.com and obviously on social media as well at Cloze. We'll put all the show links and everything, all the show notes will have the links to everything for Cloze. Dan Foody, before we get you out of here, tell us your all-time favorite movie.
That would be Blazing Saddles.
There's nothing quite like it, but I want to know why it's your favorite all-time movie. How do you connect to that movie?
Well, It's funny because so many of the things that they're making fun of in the movie are even valid today. But I think it's just the nature of they're making fun of the stereotypes. They're turning stereotypes on their head. And I kind of love a lot of that. And I just like Mel Brooks films in general too. But
he's a genius, and that one's got so many. It's just great. Also, Gene Wilder is spectacular in the movie as well. So
absolutely
big fan, and it's one of the classics. That and watching anyone punch a horse down, makes us laugh, which is fun. Yep. Dan Foody, thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. We will continue to plug and support Cloze because it just rocks. And to the Thrive Loud listeners, anyone who wants to reach out to me and ask why it's so good, you'll probably get a call from me, and it would have been already captured on Cloze because I use it with everything I do. So thank you, Dan, personally for helping people like me get organized and be on top of things.
Yeah, glad to help, and thanks for having me on.
Truly a pleasure. And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.